Okay, welcome back. We're showing now the game 4 of the Rapid of the 2016 World Championship between Karyakin and Carlsen. This is the last game. Carlsen is leading by 1 point and he's white also. And because he missed the win in game 2, he was kind of frustrated. So he won the game 3 very decisively and very powerfully. So in this game, Karyakin as black is the one who must win to tie the match, and had he done that, it would have gone to 2 blitz games, and had the 2 blitz game would have been drawn, 2 more blitz games. In case of a draw again, they play 1 game Armageddon, and we will have a winner in that game. So Carlsen is white. He played the usual. He is very strong with e4. Karyakin in all the games in this match played e5, and he didn't get much out of it. He did not even have a winning position. So he tried for the first time in this match Sicilian. This is the first and the last game of the match that we saw that a Sicilian is played. So Sicilian players, they loved it. Open knight f3, d6, d4, pawn takes, knight takes, knight f6, knight c3. And I'm sorry, on knight f6, Carlsen played f3. This is an interesting line. One of the ideas behind the f3 is to play bishop e3, queen d2, and go for what's called the English attack in Sicilian. Another point, and the main one that white plays, which happened in this game, is that he doesn't want to play knight c3 because he wants to play c4 followed by knight c3. And it's not Sicilian, of course, anymore. It's called, you could say, it's an English opening. So black played e5, knight b3, bishop e7. So by definition, this is a backward pawn. In order for a pawn to be backward, it has to meet 3 criteria. Number 1, the pawn cannot be supported with a pawn. Black has pushed both of his e and c pawns already. So that meets the first criteria. Number 2, it should be exposed on a half open file, which it is. And number 3, if black advances the pawn, he will loses it. Here he doesn't lose it. He could do it immediately instead of bishop here. But white, a slightly better development, would have the advantage. So black wants to push the pawn. It's right now. He must do it now. And that would have been a reasonable move too. So instead, black played bishop e7, and then white put an end to that pawn push for good with c4. This is called Maroczy bind, named after player Maroczy, who loved this setup with the pawns on e4, c4 as white, or e5, c5 as black. This square now is effectively in white's control. White has such a powerful bind on this square now. Black to play a5. Because this knight is not so well placed, black wants to play a4 and kick the knight. So white played knight c3. Black's idea, by the way, by pushing this pawn, is to control the dark squares, and white controls the light squares. It happens so often in many openings that one player controls certain color square and the other player the other color square. So I played a4, knight c, on a5, white played bishop e3 to vacate that square for the knight to go to. So on a4, knight c1. And black castled. Loss of a tempo is not that important because the game is not an open game. In an open game, one tempo can decide the game. But in this case, it's not that decisive because the position is semi-closed. So white to play knight c3. Of course, one of the ideas behind knight c3 is to win this pawn. So black played queen a5 to defend the pawn twice. And white played queen d2. You want to close the diagonals so the knight can move if he wants to. Queen d2, and black, controlling the dark squares, play knight a6. And of course, the most important thing in the opening is to put your king to safety. So bishop e2. Black played knight c5. Like I said, black is controlling and occupying dark squares. So white castles. And black played bishop d7. Black is hoping to break through with b5, rooks on b and c files. White to play rook b1. One of the points of rook b1 is b4, forking the queen and knight, and black's only move is to play en passant, so pawn takes, and rook is well placed, b4 coming next. Right. So after rook b1, black played rook fc8, because the center of action is going to be around here in these 4 files. Nothing is happening over here for now. Unlike the last game that you saw in Roy Lopez, black's area of maneuvering was on the king side. In this case, it's going to be queen side. So white to play b4, and black has to take en passant, pawn takes. Right, threatened fork again with b4. So black moved the queen back. That's a concession in black's part. That queen had to go back. Queen b4 would have been a mistake. What's wrong with queen b4?
Knight b4, yeah.
Or knight d5.
Yeah, exactly.
On knight d5, black can play knight takes d5.
Yeah, I mean,
You don't want to trade
Knight
queens.
d3. Trade bishop there.
Knight d3, force trading these 2 knights. Which one of these 2 knights are better placed?
the c knight,
Obviously this one.
the c5 knight.
Right. So knight d3, force trading knights, which is to white's advantage. And because black must win this game, you'll see Carlsen really plays some beautiful strategic games with this guy. He played queen d8, and white to play knight d3. This knight is very powerful. So black cannot afford to trade knight e6. And knight b4. You see, this is black's weakest spot. Great outpost for white. So you want to put pieces towards that square. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times controlling this outpost. So black to play. Black wants to trade pieces on that square. That explains bishop c6. This is a weak pawn. So eventually it might fall. So it's best to direct your pieces towards that. It may take a few moves, queen f1, queen here, and eventually maybe even doubling rooks. So rook fd1, black to play. So black has been driven back from the queen side. In the center, it's white who is having a great bind. So black is trying to open a new front on the king side, h5. Strategically, it's a good idea. Many great players have done that too. Kasparov, when he plays King's Indian defense, he rams this pawn all the way to h4, even h3 sometimes. I've done it in some of my games too. White to play. Now you see Carlsen at his best. Positional player. Regroup your pieces to the most optimized situation. Bishop f1. We saw in this match many games that Carlsen castled and put a minor piece of a bishop next to the king as white or black. Among chess players, they often put a knight or a bishop here because it's only 3-point piece, and either one of them safeguards the king side beautifully. But bishop is better piece because sometimes you need the bishop to attack, and in one move can go to the other side of the board. But it takes knight 2-3 moves to hop around and get there. So bishop is a more efficient piece. Plus that another idea that white has now, in some places, situation like in this game, he plays g3 and bishop h3 to get rid of this well-placed knight here. So black played h4. You see, the idea behind these moves is for black to establish a knight in here with, for example, here. But of course, he has to give this square, which already given it, to white too. So black is aiming to occupy this square with a knight, and white is aiming to occupy this square at the right time with a piece. White to play queen f2. So this move already exposes black's queen to white's rook, and he's hoping to create some accident as a result. So black to play knight d7. Maybe change of plans, because this is the usual continuation. Knight here, knight here. On knight d7, white played g3. White doesn't give any chance to black, even in this position, to put a knight in here. And like I said, one of the ideas behind this move is possibly bishop here. So black to play rook a3. Black really has been strategically pushed back. So he's hoping to put a knight here, attack at this pawn twice, which white can easily defend. So white to play, there's no threat. He played bishop h3. Okay, you can take that knight at the right time. Black to play rook ca8. So this is all that black has got. Doubling rooks on the a file. But in this case, doubling rooks on the only open file of the game is not much of a consequence. And as chess players say, black is attacking airy nothing. A lot of air, no targets on the a file. So white to play knight c2. This is what I mean by Carlsen being a very cunning type of player. So black has to move the rook away. Rook a6. You play knight b4. So without exchanging a single word, Carlsen is saying, I'm happy with the draw. If you are, let's just repeat moves.
Yeah, but that means he wins the world championship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why Karyakin must avoid repetition. So this time he played rook a5, which is not as good as rook a3 here in this pawn with the knight coming and all that. So this rook is totally misplaced on a5. And if this rook is out of the game, not doing anything, that means this rook is also not doing anything. So this is a very, very bad position for black. All in all, you can tell the position of white pieces are much better than black's. Black is hoping to create some accident on the wing, but it's not going to amount to anything. So at this point, engines were given almost 2 points to white. 2 points is a win.
Yeah.
So white to play, knight back to c2. He's just waiting for black to make a decision. What is black trying to do in this position? Black has nothing. He has the luxury of just doing nothing, shuffling pieces back and forth. And this is not a sign of a very mature, experienced players. And Carlsen, even though he's only 26, he has shown that because he started chess at a very young age, he's extremely good at this kind of maneuvering that usually very experienced players do. Just wait for the opponent to make a mistake rather than initiate something. Knight c2, black to play b6. Rook d2. Okay, so rook not only guards the second rank in case the knight moves, but also has a possibility of doubling on the d file or even on the b file. Black to play queen c7. So it's obvious that black has no plans. White to play rook bd1. So white is doubling rooks on a file, attacking a pawn which is defended with a minor piece for the moment. But this pawn could come under attack with a minor piece later on. Black to play bishop f8. Okay, that's reasonable also. So black with this move voluntarily is willing to give up this pawn. White can just win the pawn now. But of course it would be at the cost of weakening that square. So bishop f8, white just took the pawn. Carlsen is a very no-nonsense type of player. He says, now prove that this pawn sacrifice was good and you can get it back. So black, having really nothing in this position, played a desperate move, bishop f4. When a knight comes to your side of the board, you really want to watch out. It's the trickiest piece on the board, is knights. So you must eliminate it, even though it means giving up a bishop for it sometimes, like in this case. All the threats that this knight could create is gone. However, there's another knight that could come here, and it would control so many good squares around here. So what is the natural follow-up for white now? To eliminate the other knight too. So in 2 moves, he gave up 2 bishops for 2 knights. So you could say black has a pair of bishops, but when your opponent's bishops are hemmed in by his own pawns or by your opponent's pawn chain, they're not really that powerful. So both of black's bishops are effectively just bad, and they're not going to have much scope. So white to play knight b4 again. And this time white can establish a knight. And even after bishop takes, knight takes, we will have a case of a good knight versus bad bishop. So this is a strategic play at its best. After knight b4, black to play renews the threat on a3. After all, there's nothing else for him in this position. So what should white do? White created nice tactics in this position. First, he eliminated this bishop, and even though it's a bad bishop, but because he's controlling these squares, in a way, it's not a bad piece. Queen takes, and now he made a tactical maneuvering, knight b5. The idea is if rook takes pawn, knight d4, forking the rooks. And where can this rook go? He doesn't have a2. a1 is harmless.
So he'd be forking the queen and the rook.
So here, Karyakin decided to take some more risks. He might have been able to defend this position. But you see, another point on knight b5 was that after the rook moves, knight takes pawn, 3 attackers, 2 defenders. So black decided to take some risks, give up the exchange. So in this position, he played rook takes b3. So he gets 2 pawns and a knight for a rook. But because of this terribly bad piece, and the other rook not being active, and white having pretty much all the aces, it turns out not enough. Sure enough, white played here. Black took the c4 pawn. Rook takes, queen takes. So black sacrificed an exchange, hoping to be able to create some accidents in this game. Now, when a series of exchanges have taken place, it's time to regroup your pieces to the most optimal position again. Queen e2 with the idea of queen here and trying to build against this weak square, or possibly rook d3 at some point. Queen e2, black to play bishop e7. Bishop is trying to come back to life. White to play king g2, king off the back rank. And of course, bishop takes pawn fails to rook takes. Even though it's a bad pawn, it's better to take it than not taking it. So on king g2, black played queen e6. So black is trying to have a 2-piece attack against the white king, which is well guarded. So obviously it's not going to succeed. White to play h5, preventing queen check, which was harmless, but it's still holding on to the pawn at least a couple of moves longer. After h5, black to play rook a3. He's desperately trying to create some counterattack, which is not there really. Probably the idea behind this move is that if white moves the queen away, say to b5, black has the possibility of rook takes, king takes, check, and he's hoping for perpetual check, which I doubt it's going to be there. But white played carefully. Rook d3. And where can the rook go? If he goes here, he plays this rook to d2. So black moved the rook to a7. And white played rook d5. Now this pawn cannot be taken either. So the idea behind this move is to play rook f5 and eventually get the queen to d5, putting pressure on black's weakest spot. So black played rook c7 and white played queen d2. So queen d2 attacks this pawn and defends that square from rook penetration. Black to play rook c8. Black's moves really don't make sense anymore because it just lost position. Black is playing what kind of chess, Mitch?
Titanic chess.
Titanic chess. He knows he's going to sink. It's just a matter of time. So rook c7, queen d2. Oh no, sorry, not yet. Black played queen f6 first. White to play rook f5, queen h4. Okay, we're getting close to the climax of the position and the game and the match. So how should white continue from this point?
Can't he just take the f4 pawn?
He did. And other than that check, black doesn't have anything, which is actually a harmless check. Queen takes f4. Black cannot afford to trade queens, and he doesn't have too many choices. So black threw in a check. Now obviously rook d2 doesn't work. Queen takes queen, removing the guard, rook takes and winning this. But he has to be careful still. This loses and this loses because of queen f2, queen g2 mate, or queen f2 mate. So king h1 the only move. So Karyakin tried one last chance, queen f2. Here, people, grandmasters in the commentary room, they were worried about covering that square against checkmate. So they thought, oh, he can just play queen g3 and black has nothing. I thought he's going to play rook g1, which is a decent move also. But Carlsen has seen more. Oh wait, something is not right.
Yeah, because the king's going to be at h7.
Oh, black moved the rook to a7 earlier and white moved the rook to c1. This is the position. One move I missed earlier, rook a7 and rook c1. Sorry about that. So here's the position, and Carlsen, he had seen this position. Rook had come to a2. He checked the king, king here, queen f2. So black is threatening checkmate on this square, and nobody saw this. Carlsen's sister was also commenting here. She thought that white should play queen g3, and that would have been okay move. But Carlsen started calculating, and after his first calculation, it's like he couldn't believe that it actually works. You know, he kind of shook himself and started recalculating, make sure it actually works, because what a way to finish up this game and the match. So white has mate in 3 in this position. Anybody cares to solve it?
You got to have a check first.
C8.
Right. So when you're trying to solve a puzzle, there are 3 steps to follow. Look at all the checks, look at all the captures, look at all the threats. In this case, the first step solves it. 3 checks in a row. Check. The only move.
Well, couldn't he block with the bishop?
Oh, let's look at that line. Blocking with the bishop also gets mated. Rook takes bishop, king takes,
And rook takes. pawn.
rook check, and where does he go? He will get mated. If he goes to g8, check, king here, queen check, and king h6 mate, or pawn push mate.
Wait a minute, if he goes to g8, the check was at f8. I see.
f8 check, king h7, and here's another check, and it's mate next move.
Good for you.
Either king here or pawn push, either way, mate next.
Right.
Now the question is, what happens if the king goes to e8? In this line, he also gets mated. How does he lose here?
Let's see. Does queen take d6? Oh no, because
There's a mate threat here with the queen, with the rook.
Yeah.
Every move has to be with check.
So
F8?
rook f8's got it.
Rook f8. And if king e7, queen mates. And if king here, what's the move?
Rook D8, no.
Queen f7, that's no good.
Queen F5.
Queen f5, very good. And where can he go now?
Oh, if he goes to c6, then queen d5.
Oh, well, it's like mate in 2 or 3, right?
If king here,
Check.
rook c8 check, the only move, check, king a6, rook
And then
a8.
mate.
Alright.
So either way, black gets mated. But I like to leave you guys with that final position because it is so appealing. Looks so great. There's a bishop on e7, and there's a pawn here. And check, king here, and here in this position, here is the coup de grace.
Check. Uh-huh.
Black has two ways of capture, and either one is mate. King takes, rook h8, pawn takes, queen takes.
Oh,
Some position very similar to this happened if you go to this game on chessgames.com. Some people in the commentary room, they had a position with reverse colors that black delivers checkmate on h3 with the same idea and same theme, more or less.
Wait, what's the second check if you put the pawn?
Rook takes here.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay, so for those of you who are good at tactics, what kind of tactical theme is this? There's a name for this kind of tactics.
decoy. Because the king goes to the fatal
If
square.
king takes, it has one name. If pawn takes, it has another name.
Well, deflection or decoy. One is deflection, one is decoy.
So definition of decoy is to snare a piece into a deadly square, often a king or a queen. So if he takes with a king, king came to the fatal square. Why is the square fatal? Because of that rook check. That would be a decoy.
Yeah.
If he takes with a pawn,
Deflection.
it has a different name.
Well, he's
What is this,
removing
Soldi?
the guard of the check, I guess. Because the G.
Come on, you said it.
Deflection.
Deflection. It deflects this pawn from the 7th rank. And what happens when the pawn moves away from the 7th rank?
That leaves the F7.
Then
open.
f7 is a checkmate. So if he takes with a pawn, it's deflection. If he takes with a queen, decoy. And by the way, these two are the hardest tactics in chess. Even grandmasters, they may miss one of
So
those
as soon as he
deflection.
went to queen h6, what did Kiryakin do?
Karyakin looked for 2-3 seconds, forwarded his hand, and resigned.
Ah.
He played. He acted like a true gentleman. First thing he said in the press conference was,
Good.
"Happy birthday to Carlsen." So, and he said, "My wife is telling me that our baby started walking, so I can't wait to get home."
Who said that?
Karyakin, who lost the match.
Oh.
So the winner got $1 million, and loser probably about $500,000.
Alright.
They were both happy though. I mean, these guys are the final two guys on the planet that they played for the world championship. So hope you guys enjoyed it.